Hi, welcome to Clay Clips. You know, kneading clay is sometimes a hassle, but it's a necessary evil making pots. And there are two different ways to do it. One is called kneading, and the other is called wedging. And they are very much two distinct things. Next step is, of course, weighing your pots. And if you want to produce like items, start with the same weight of clay. But I'm also going to show you a sort of handy thing that I've invented. I don't think it's terribly original. I think it actually was in England long before I came along. It's used for cutting clay, so I avoid having to use the scales. So let me show you how I knead and wedge. Now, one of the easiest ways to learn how to knead clay is do what's called the ram's head technique. I'm going to keep my palms parallel to each other, and my base of each palm is going to push equal pressure into the piece. Now, after I push, I'm going to lift it up until it's facing me. Just sort of see what I'm doing here. Now, it will walk away from you as you do the kneading process if you don't turn it back to you enough. So that much, it's going to walk away. But if I pull it all the way back up, it definitely stays in front of me. Now, my hands being parallel contain it from getting too long. And that's what we call a ram's head. Looks like a duck too, but whatever. Okay, to move on to the next step, once you've mastered this, is spiral kneading. Now, the advantage of spiral kneading is that you can knead a piece of clay that's much, much bigger than you'll ever be able to knead doing this method, ram's heading. What we do is we take this piece and turn it on its end. I keep my left hand on the clay, put my right hand across the clay. My left hand becomes a turning hand. I turn the clay back towards me all the time. My right hand is my pushing hand. I'm going to force it through the clay. Now my hands are pretty much covering up what I want to show you, so I'm going to add some more clay to it. There's lots of air pockets in this clay. By the time we're finished spiral kneading, they'll be gone. And talking about a little bit of ergonomics and what's healthy for you as you're kneading. You want to keep your shoulders over the clay, and that usually puts the table height about 3 or 4 inches below your waist height. Now, the advantage of this technique is the clay keeps coming around, and I can knead a lot of clay at once doing this. It's not that difficult. It's a rhythm thing. You see the spiraling happening. I'm actually only kneading this much clay at a time. And I twist it up on itself by shortening my rolls. Okay, this clay is now wound up in a clockwise direction. My wheel goes the opposite way, counterclockwise. What I want to do is untwist this clay and take the pressure off of it just a little bit during the throwing process. If I put it on the wheel head this way, I'm tightening the clay even more, which means in the firing it's going to unwind a lot and set up a lot of stress in the clay. So that's spiral kneading. Now I'd like to show you wedging. And that's a different animal. Now this is, I believe, I learned this in England. form the clay into a wedge. So it's narrow at this end, a little fatter at this end. I'm going to start by putting the narrow end tightly to the table. I'm going to cut it in half with a wire, pick this up, and I'm going to throw, turn it so you can see it, I'm going to throw this face so it lines up with that face on top. Flip it over, and do it again. Again, it's a rhythm thing. Once you get into it, it doesn't take too long to master the technique. And again, it's a really quick way to homogenize clay. If you have two different colored clays, or a light, a dark, hard, soft, you can easily connect them, mix them up by wedging. Every time I do this cutting, I'm increasing the mixture by about 4 times. The pressure of one piece of clay slamming on the other is pushing all the air bubbles out of the piece. No air bubbles, and it's completely mixed. And that was only about 10 wedges. Give it a try. Now I want to show you this little other tool that I've just come up with. Okay, the next step, of course, to making pots is weighing them out. So we got equal portions for equally sized pots. Just beware when you attach these small pieces not to trap air between the large piece and the small piece. So that's one way to do it. But that takes a lot of time when you're making 50 or 100 coffee mugs. So I have a pug mill. Get a pug stick of clay, and even box clay. I open them up and I unwrap the clay from the bags and I pug it. What it does, it starts to align the particles really nicely for throwing. Now this is something I've made for cutting sections. It's basically a big egg slicer. I put brads in here, sometimes I use screws, and a wire that wraps back and forth across the frame. The frame is 2 by 1, and I make them out of oak because they're really strong and they don't bend and compress. And all one does is chop it down, recycle the ends, and these are the pieces that go to the wheel. Now I put them on the wheel sideways. If I put them on this way, then I'm dealing with the swirl again. And if you do it in the wrong direction, it's hard to know, you can get S-cracking on the bottoms of the pots. This is much quicker than using the scales. I'm ready to go to the wheel. You're watching Clay Clips.